currents, I can normally talk under wet cement. So as you can imagine, my husband's having a field day. I may not last till the 15-minute mark, so we'll see how it goes. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the elders past and present, and any Aboriginal people here today. As tourism and accommodation operators in the Blue Mountains, you've done a lot of things right. Your sector's the envy of the Hawkesbury, where I come from, and we often look to you as an example of what could be done down the hill. I've got some understanding of small-scale tourism, particularly in the heritage sector. I was the spokesperson for the Friends of the Australiana Pioneer Village, the group that successfully fought to maintain and protect the village as a community-run open-air museum and tourist attraction. I've been involved in the running of the village since it reopened in 2010. I also run a very small business, so I understand your concern about paperwork, banking, tax and finance, and I'm probably the least enthusiastic fitter-outer of forms on the planet. I'm going to focus on two major aspects of Greens policy that I think are relevant to tourism and accommodation in the Blue Mountains: small business policy and protection of niche markets in natural and cultural heritage. Let's look at small business first. The Greens recognise that small business is the backbone of the Australian economy. Small business employs 5 million people. That's half the private job sector, and probably even more than that in the Blue Mountains. Small businesses tend to be more innovative than larger firms, but they often struggle to compete with the market power of large businesses. And small businesses bear a disproportionate burden in administrative costs, tax collection and regulation. The Greens want to reward your skills and innovation. We've got a strong track record of support for small business in the Senate, but we want to push reform further. We propose a tax cut of 25% for small business, offset by the government's mining tax. So instead of big businesses having their corporate tax rate cut from 30 to 29%, you get the tax cut. We'll expand the instant asset write-off from $6,500 to $10,000 to help small businesses invest in new equipment. We'll cap exit fees on loans to small businesses, and we'll legislate so that banks must offer small businesses fixed interest cap loans set at an agreed margin above the lender's costs. That way, reductions in bank costs must be passed on. We'll push for portable bank accounts that will allow businesses to change banks without changing their account details, saving you time and money and giving you access to real choice and competition in the banking sector. We'll give the Federal Small Business Commissioner more power and a secure future through legislation. Small businesses need to know that there's legislation with enough teeth to protect them. And we'll strengthen competition laws for a fairer playing field. For too long, small businesses have fallen victim to big business monopolies and lobbying power. I'd like to focus now on protecting your industry in the long term. You've got a very successful niche market here. Because of your distance from Sydney, you attract both day trippers and overnighters. In fact, your overnight visitor numbers are increasing, and they're spending more when they get here, which benefits other businesses in the mountains. So obviously what's good for you is good for the local community. The bulk of your visitors come from the domestic market, and they spent almost $3 million here last financial year. We want to keep them here longer. We want more of them to stay overnight, and we want them to tell their friends and come back again. What will make them stay longer and come back? Interesting things to see and do. Largely our natural cultural heritage. These are the two pillars of the tourism industry in the Blue Mountains. As a Green, I'm committed to protecting both of these. I'm also committed to enhancing people's enjoyment and understanding of their natural and cultural heritage through innovation and investment. This is both sensible tourism and a social good. The small businesses of Blue Mountains tourism play a major role in facilitating visitors' experiences of World Heritage Wilderness and national significant cultural heritage. But there are significant threats. The state government is currently introducing new laws and dismantling environmental protections that could irreparably damage the mountain's built natural heritage and damage its tourism industry. The most significant of these is the New South Wales Government Planning Reforms, or White Paper. It will fast-track more than 80% of developments, including commercial buildings, apartments and subdivisions, and local councils will not be able to refuse proposals which comply with relevant codes. Ecologically sustainable development principles currently in place, things like the precautionary principle, polluter pays, conservation of biological diversity, will cease to have legal power. The living conservation zones of our heritage townships will cease to exist. They'll become residential zones, open to apartment blocks, mixed commercial and development, not things that tourists from Sydney on a day trip or tourists from overseas want to see. Our strict stormwater management that protects the World Heritage Area and Sydney's water supply will be at risk. The ramifications are enormous on the water supply, the wilderness and the World Heritage status of the Blue Mountains. These laws will make it harder for communities to take a stand against mining and coal seam gas protests. Because the next big threat is from coal seam gas and coal mining. The lower Blue Mountains, that is the towns east of Springwood and the Hawkesbury, are covered by AGL's coal seam gas exploration licence. The upper Blue Mountains and east of Springwood is covered by an application for a prospecting licence. The Gardens of Stone National Park within the Blue Mountains World Heritage Area and Ben Bullen State Forest both contain unique pagoda rock formations and endangered flora and fauna that are under threat from Coalpac's consolidation project, which seeks to extend its existing coal mining operations using open cut and long wall techniques. The Planning and Assessment Commission rejected Coalpac's proposal. Coalpac have responded and are now waiting for the next stage. Threat 3 is the state government's review of essential wildlife protection. And then there's shooting, logging and grazing in the national parks. Barry O'Farrell's backed off for this election, but there's no guarantee that our national parks won't be open to shooting, logging and grazing once the election is over. So what can be done and who will do it? The best protection lies with federal environment laws, and these are under threat. Tony Abbott intends to hand national environment laws over to his state cronies for control. This will wind environmental protections back 30 years. Under Julia Gillard, the Labor government didn't support the Greens motion in the Senate in March to have threats to our national parks included in the environmental laws as a trigger for federal governments to step in over irresponsible state governments. The federal government can use its corporations' power under the Constitution to legislate controls over mining companies. The Greens endeavoured to use these powers in Parliament. We moved motions or amendments to motions which would give landholders the right to refuse mining companies access to land, ensure no more coal seam gas developments in Australia, protect national environment laws from being handed to the state, have shale and tight gas included in water trigger legislation. But none of these attempts received the support of the old parties. The Greens will also stand up to the old parties to really tackle climate change. Climate change will have huge negative impacts on the Blue Mountains. In short, if you want your customers to keep coming back to the mountains, to visit our historic towns, eat local food and enjoy our national parks, you need a party in government and holding the balance of power in the Senate that understands the fragile nature of the Blue Mountains World Heritage Area and the economic benefits it brings. You need a party that will stand up to mining companies and short-sighted, self-interested state governments and act for the good of the community and the natural environment. Only the Greens have a strong record of doing this. I've mentioned niche markets. The Greens have a plan to really expand your niche marketing through renewable energy initiatives. You already have access to a new breed of tourist, one who wants not only an experience, but an experience that leaves them feeling like they've done some good. The Blue Mountains has led the way in New South Wales with slow food, ecotourism and natural heritage. We want to add another point of difference through renewable energy. The Blue Mountains tourism could be a leader in energy efficiency and renewables. It's an opportunity to save money on electricity bills and also to establish a point of difference for tourism here. People come here because of the World Heritage wilderness. Establishing the mountains as a place where people enjoy the natural environment and protect it with renewable energy and energy efficiency should be part of the branding of the Blue Mountains. The Greens' policies to promote renewable energy and energy efficiency creates enormous opportunities for small business. We will increase the renewable energy target to 90% by 2030, increase clean energy finance to $30 billion over 10 years to drive commercialisation of emerging technology, improve national electricity transmission, improve national electricity transmission planning to cost-effectively exploit our extensive natural resources of renewable energy. Thank you. Sorry. And bring in a new energy-saving agency that would set a fair price for renewable energy sold into the grid. People from the UK and Europe actively look for eco-accommodation. Australia has a shortage. Solar power is a huge boost for your business marketing. The Greens present a real choice. We've responsibly held the balance of power in the Senate for the past 3 years. We understand the needs of small business and we're focused on protecting the environment and the benefits that it brings. One of these benefits is tourism. We will support you to build this sector and we will stand up for what matters to you. Thank you.